Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today it's episode 9 of Tank of the Week, and well, I got some pretty big news. Let's talk about this tank right here. Did you think I was giving you the guppies yet? Don't worry, soon. But I got some big news about these guys down here. Let's talk about this tank, what's going on with it, and what I might do with it in the future. For those of you who've been watching for a while, you'll probably know who these fish are. But these were Bob Steenfott's Boesemani I, the ones that came from Gary Lange. So they're Lake Atinjo. They're very, very nice. You can see that big, beautiful male chasing those 3 females. There is another male, but I moved him to a different tank because I specifically want one male that I selected for color, and the 3 females. I have been trying for a very long time to get this boy to spawn near a spawning mop. And as you can see, there's a fresh mop over in the right-hand corner. So what's the news? Why am I talking about this tank? It looks boring. There's green sand because of algae, not a lot of plants. It's very not my typical tank. After nearly a year of working with this fish, trying to get this guy to go over and put eggs in a mop, he's finally done it. And he's picking at a piece of food. Now, they're probably picking a few eggs here and there because they'll see stuff on it, and they'll see it as food, and they'll try and pick at it. But there are eggs. I saw them, if you watched the live stream, it would have been the day before the live stream for September. So I know that they're finally spawning over by the mop and putting eggs in that mop. I'm going to leave it in for about another 3 or 4 days of total time. So it would have been like a week or so from when I first saw eggs in that mop. And then I'm going to move it to a different tank to let those eggs hatch out. Or what I'll do, I think I'm actually going to do is put a breeder box on the front of this and put all the eggs in that breeder box and let them hatch using the same water the parents are in. That's great, right? We're finally getting Boesemani I eggs. We can finally start raising some of those fish. But why does that matter? This tank is incredibly boring. Let's talk about why. You'll see down on the left-hand side, there's several of those plastic trays. And I did a lot of experiments with these. Like there's some ADA soil versus just some standard river gravel. And you can see up at the top, there's a bunch of plants floating because some stems finally loosed themselves. And they've been there for a little bit, and I really haven't worried too much about them. But those each kind of served a purpose for a while, and now they're past that point. I've done those experiments. I wanted to see how a stem of Bacopa, basically, would grow in a really nice ADA soil versus river rock. And then eventually I put some extra stuff there. I had some crypts, and you can see some Vesuvius sword in the back. There's a Crinum calamastratum kind of temporarily in here that will go to a different tank. But this tank kind of did a lot of experiments. It was set up cheaply. It wasn't designed to be a giant planted tank. This was meant to temporarily raise some rainbow babies and then eventually house adults as a breeder tank. And just over the time of working with this, there are some things that I would rather have done in this breeder tank to make it a true breeder tank, and or create a grow-out tank out of this and use a different tank for breeding. I guess the only thing is there's an Anubias floating. There's an interesting floating plant in here that is called Asian watergrass, but it's not doing so great right now. I need to do a little bit of maintenance on this tank, which will get done after this. And then there's a very small chunk of coconut with a baby Java fern growing on it that's a trident Java fern. And that's about it. I mean, it's really simple, other than there are a ton of Malaysian trumpet snails in this thing, which you might say, well, what about the snails? Aren't they going to eat the eggs? Not if I pick them fast enough. It's really what it comes to. And I haven't seen, most of these are baby trumpets. Anytime we get big trumpets, we move them almost immediately. So we have lots of little trumpet snails in this all the time. And even then, we kind of use this to harvest trumpet snails to go to other tanks, just to help keep substrates nice and healthy and stuff like that. But you can see they're all picking it like a snail that was floating. So let me kind of zoom in on the Boesemani I and just give you a better look at him. So here we are looking at that big male as he's chasing some girls around in front of the mop. But he used to never, wherever I put the mop, he would go nowhere near it. And now you can see he's kind of staying around it quite often. Now he's probably searching for food, but he's also chasing the girls, which means he's prepping to spawn over there too. So that's the good news. He does not want to stay in the shot though. Alright, so we get a little bit better. We'll track this guy and try to keep him in focus as he runs immediately off the screen. You can see the girls here. They're not shy at all. Like, this is a pretty bare tank, and they're right up front the whole time. Now, granted, I just fed them, so they're going to be a little more willing to be on camera. But I want to talk about what I'd like to do with this tank long term. What I'd like to do is have this 40 breeder as a grow out. But I kind of want it off of this setup that it's in, and in a more rack-oriented setup. It's probably more close. I kind of want to probably move it out of here and take it somewhere where I can just get a little bit better room and like a little bit better power distribution, so I'm not worried so much about power in this room. Let's go ahead and zoom out and see the rest of the tank, huh? Okay, so now that we're looking at the full tank again, it's really great that the Boesemani I are spawning. So that's part of why I don't want to move them for a while. I want to collect a lot of eggs. I want to try and hatch a lot of babies. And I would like to have a kind of a bigger system for them to grow up in. And I've got some ideas in mind. I just got to figure out what I can do to create space in some places and raise up a lot of babies in one shot. Realistically, like a 20 long is going to be good enough for a while. But then eventually you'll need something. I'll need something like a 40 breeder or maybe even something larger to fully raise those babies out. Overall, like the parents are doing great. They're finally kind of spawning. And that's really good news. And this tank is really plain Jane. So this is really all about the fish. But, you know, long term, if this was a grow out tank, I'd probably make it a little more bare bottom, but black paint the bottom. And, you know, maybe a really thin layer of some kind of substrate, like a gravel of some form, not a, like an actual plant substrate. And do like pieces of wood with Java ferns on them and a little bit of crushed coral to buffer. And just make it very simple. Make it so there are plants, and they're all simple plants, so I don't have to worry about necessarily having like a Fluval 3.0 on this. You know, use my Fluvals in more like really plant dominating tanks and take like a Beamsworks or something very simple here. And now granted, you can still keep a Fluval on this thing and have a bunch of Java fern and make it look amazing and have the light really good, but it's not necessary. But that's kind of a more long-term thing, because I'd have to have a different breeding tank for these Boesemani to go into, and then completely tear this thing down and, you know, kind of rebuild it from the ground up, which, when it's just bare bottom, that's not so bad, but the big thing is, like, painting the bottom and stuff like that, right? That takes time. So basically, this tank of the week is all about saying, I finally got the Boesemani to give me some eggs, and that means we've got a good chance of raising a bunch of baby Boesemani, and thus having some of those fish either A, for a tank, or B, to sell at some point. You know, maybe work with Bob Steenfott. He's recently opened his own online business, which is really great, and he's selling fish, and he's shipping fish, which is amazing. So, you know, I made a promise to Bob that in the first batch of babies, a bunch of them would go back to him. So I gotta, you know, retouch base with Bob once we get to, like, raising babies properly and see, you know, how many babies he wants, what he thinks is fair. And then from there, it's kind of a matter of, you know, maybe we do look at long-term, because keep in mind, guys, it's going to take like 9 months before they've got enough color to where I would consider them sellable as far as a baby is concerned. We'll look at, maybe we partner with Bob or something like that and have his original Boesemani that I'm breeding be available through his store. Or, you know, maybe I'll sell them locally just like the co-op. I've done that with a lot of rainbows in the past that I've raised. There's all sorts of stuff. It's kind of it's such a long-term thing, right? Because rainbows take 9 months to a year to raise up. Boesemani are very slow. That it's not something to be like, well, yeah, in 3 months, right? It's a long process. But the goal is to have these fish kind of continually giving us baby fish, and then I will keep a certain number, of course, because I would love to have like a similar to Animal House's size tank, just full of nothing but Boesemani I. I think that would be incredible. And there is like an auto sinkless in the back of this thing, but that little guy is just kind of in here. He was originally here with 2 others to keep some plants clean, and I moved those others to different tanks that had way more plants that needed them more. And I thought I had got them all, and I found this one guy still in here, and it's like, well, he's chilling, getting lots of food. He's got a nice fat belly. I'll just let him do his thing. And then, of course, there's all the Malaysian trumpet snails and stuff. But, this is a super simple tank because it was designed with a purpose. Originally, it was here to raise up babies that I got from Gary Lange when I got eggs. And then I started trying to breed some of the fish in here, and now it's kind of become a breeding tank for these Boesemani I until I can find them something different, which with only 4 fish, even something like a 20 tall or a 29, like a 29 would actually be kind of big. This 40 is way big. A 20 tall is actually big enough for this many fish, strictly for breeding purposes. Because they're adults, these are a type of Boesemani I that don't get super huge like the Ayumarus do. And the height lets you have plenty of room for the mop. It's kind of one of those things where you can just do it very simply with a sponge filter, or you can use a Zis filter if you wanted. That's also a fine option. And like just your breeders, and that's it. It's really simple. And that's really all these fish probably need to be strictly breeding fish. But for right now, while they're happy, I'm not going to move them. I'm going to try and raise up a few babies. Like, I'll be picking eggs out of this mop next 2 days from when I'm filming this, which that means it'll be done by the time you guys see this, I think. Oh, man, if my schedule doesn't kill me. But, I've got a little Marina hang-on breeder box that's air-powered, and I'll just set that thing up. I'll take my air stone that's running over here. I've got 2 air stones that go in this tank. I'll just take one of the 2 and I'll push it to the breeder box instead of inside the tank. I really need to change my old Never Clog air stones because they're kind of the not so great ones, and put in those Zis ones. I think they're much better. But overall, this tank's it's great. We finally got eggs out of these Boesemani I. It took me forever to get this guy to throw eggs in a mop. I had to get a completely different mop. Different design too. I had to do some changes to the design of the mop, which let's talk about that. One sec. Let me pull the mop and give you a different angle and let you guys look at the mop itself. You can see here, I have this long trailer from the cork that holds this up. This is just designed to put the mop deeper in the water and make it lower. And I don't know if you can see. We're gonna pull this out. A little water off of it. Bring it in close. Try not to drip all over the floor. Can it focus? There we go. Do you guys see, right here, right above my thumb, there's a bunch of eggs? There's 4 or 5 visible right there. I can see 6 or 7 down lower in here. But there's brand new, fresh rainbow eggs in that mop. That's kind of the design of the mop. It's just designed to push it further down into the water so it's not so high. That way they can get over the top of it, because I noticed a lot of eggs in the top of the mop. So kind of in this area here, right? And less way down here. Some fish like to go up into a mop, so they'll come in through the bottom and they'll swim up into it. And some will go to the side. And these guys tend to go to the side, so that's why I designed the mop this way. Well, there you go, guys. We've got eggs in a mop. We might have some baby rainbows here soon. And from a fish that has been quite a pain for me to get eggs out of, I'm not going to lie. I'd really love to know down in the comments, what do you guys think of, what in these Boesemani I? Is that what excites you, that there's eggs? Or is it more kind of my plans for the future, what I want to do with that tank and creating I guess you'd say a simplistic setup, a way that someone could keep a planted tank, but bare bottom, and use it with a very specific purpose, like growing out, or maybe you don't want to deal with substrates. Maybe you really love just Anubiases and Java ferns, and you want something like that where all you have your substrate in there for is to buffer, and you need very thin layers, or you don't even have it at all, and it's just a simple clean bottom. That way it's easy to see, my tank is dirty, I need to clean it. things like that. I'd love to know what you guys think about that down in the comments. If you guys like this video, maybe you're just happy that those Boesemani had finally given me some eggs. How about a little thumbs up, a little like. If you are so tired of seeing rainbows and all you want to see is this guppy tank behind me, well, you know, go ahead and hit the thumbs down twice. And I'll understand, but this is special. So we got to do something special for it. It can't be a normal tank of the week. That's what I'm letting you know. It's got to be a little more interesting. And we're getting there. It's coming, I promise. For those of you who are new, maybe this is your first time checking this out, please check out the other Tank of the Week episodes at the end of this video. There's going to be a card that takes you to the entire playlist where you can see every Tank of the Week. I do a new Tank of the Week every Wednesday. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a brand new tank, but more that I'm going to go to a different tank that's had some kind of significant change or I've never featured before and give you an entire walkthrough of what that tank is. So the fish, the plants, what's going on. In the case of this tank that we just did, it's super simple. It's more breeding tank and not about plants, but almost all my tanks are about plants. So they're a little more in-depth. This is a lot simpler. Consider subscribing and also check out the community tab because I'll often put up polls about which tank I'm thinking about for Tank of the Week and which ones you guys want to see first. And that is your way to tell me, I want this, this is my way to interact with the channel, because that's your opportunity to kind of control the content you see. And of course, Saturdays we have all sorts of different videos for product reviews, interviews, just random musings for me, plants for profit, all that kind of stuff, how-tos. Those are all our Saturday videos. Consider checking those out. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome. Just a little preview so you guys can see Bob in the outtakes. Check out that weird growth, huh? It's starting to look a little less like a dinosaur foot or a blob and more like some kind of, I don't know, weird blob thing. It's modern art. See, the trick is, for the guppy tank, it's gotta be real special. And if I give the guppy tank right away, it's so fun. If we wait for it, we tease it like this, it's more fun. For me, at least. But, I don't know, maybe I'll just get off camera to see that big, beautiful thing. Oh, it's coming. Don't you worry.